"Computer, trace the message source," he ordered, drumming his fingers on the armrest. The ship's AI responded in its usual calm voice. "Unable to trace. Multiple encryption layers detected." That was interesting. Very few people could hide their tracks that well. Oliver ran his hand through his messy brown hair, thinking hard. Triple pay meant triple risk, but it also meant enough credits to upgrade the Scarborough's engines, something he desperately needed if he wanted to stay ahead of Dominion patrols. He typed back a single word: "Details." The response came quickly. A set of coordinates appeared on his screen, along with the time. 6 hours from now. The location was a small trading post on the edge of Dominion space, far from regular patrol routes. Oliver pulled up the star charts. The trading post was called Murphy's Stop, a collection of old shipping containers welded together to make a station. It was the kind of place where people minded their own business and didn't ask questions. Perfect for secret meetings. "Computer, calculate fuel requirements for Murphy's Stop," Oliver said, already reaching for the ship's controls. The numbers appeared on his screen. He had just enough fuel to make it there and back to a refueling station if things went bad. As the Scarborough's engines hummed to life, Oliver checked his personal shield generator and the small laser pistol strapped to his thigh. In his line of work, paranoia wasn't paranoia. It was survival. The journey to Murphy's Stop took 5 hours and 40 minutes. Oliver spent the time checking his ship's systems and cleaning his weapons. The Scarborough might look like a rusty cargo hauler on the outside, but her hidden compartments and modified systems told a different story. Murphy's Stop appeared on his view screen, a jumble of metal containers glowing with dim lights. 3 other ships were docked: a food supply freighter, a passenger shuttle, and what looked like a miner's vessel. "Docking permission requested," Oliver transmitted to the station. "Granted. Bay 4, came the automated reply. The Scarborough slid smoothly into the docking bay. Oliver sealed his jacket, checked his weapons one last time, and headed for the airlock. The station's artificial gravity kicked in as he stepped through, slightly lighter than Earth standard, typical for these older stations. He made his way to the rusty bolt, the station's only bar. The place was exactly what he expected: dark corners, sticky tables, and the smell of cheap synthetic alcohol in the air. 3 people sat scattered around the room, none looking up as he entered. In the furthest corner sat a figure in a hooded gray cloak. Their hands were covered in dark gloves, and a data tablet sat on the table in front of them. Oliver walked to the bar, ordered a drink he didn't plan to touch, and casually made his way to the corner table. As he sat down, the hooded figure spoke in a whisper. "The Dominion is holding someone important in the Nexus Prime facility. We need them extracted within 48 hours. Payment is 3 million credits, 1 million now, 2 upon delivery." Oliver kept his face neutral, but his heart rate picked up. 3 million credits was more money than he'd seen in his entire career. "Nexus Prime," he whispered back. "That's a maximum security Dominion fortress. Getting in would be hard. Getting out would be nearly impossible." The figure slid the data tablet across the table. "This contains the guard rotations, security protocols, and facility blueprints. The prisoner is in cell block D, level 7. Oliver glanced at the tablet. The information looked legitimate, far too detailed to be fake. "Why me?" he asked, the question that had been bothering him since the first message. The figure's hood shifted slightly. "Because you've never failed a job, Mr. Matthews. And because right now, you're the only one desperate enough to try." Oliver's fingers tightened around his untouched drink. They were right. He was desperate. The Dominion's increased patrols were making smuggling harder every day. Small-time runners like him were being squeezed out. He needed this job, even if it might get him killed. "I'll need 12 hours to prep," he said finally, "and I want half the down payment in advance." The figure nodded and placed a credit chip on the table. 12 hours. No more. "And Mr. Matthews." They stood up slowly. "Don't try to run with the advance payment. You wouldn't survive the consequences." Oliver watched them leave, then looked down at the tablet and credit chip. He had just accepted what might be either the biggest job of his career or the last mistake he'd ever make. Either way, there was no turning back now. Oliver's heart pounded as he crawled through the narrow maintenance shaft of the Nexus Prime facility. The metal was cold against his hands, and the only sound was his quiet breathing inside his stealth suit. According to the blueprints, the high-security cells were just ahead. Getting in had been surprisingly easy. Maybe too easy. The guard rotations matched the data perfectly, and his fake maintenance worker credentials had worked without a problem. That made him nervous. In his experience, when things went too smoothly, something bad was usually about to happen. He reached the end of the shaft and carefully removed the vent cover. Cell Block D was dark, lit only by dim blue emergency lights. Using his wrist computer, he checked the cell numbers. The prisoner he needed to rescue was in cell D717. The cell door looked ordinary, but Oliver knew better. The security system could detect even the smallest tampering attempt. He pulled out the special code breaker device he bought with part of his advance payment. It was expensive, but worth every credit if it worked. He attached the device to the door's control panel and waited. 3 seconds later, the lock clicked open. Oliver drew his stun pistol and stepped inside, ready for anything, except what he actually saw. The prisoner was a woman, but not a human woman. Her skin gave off a soft, pearl-like glow that lit up the small cell. Her hair seemed to shimmer with threads of light, and her eyes were completely silver. She sat calmly on the cell's narrow bed, looking at him as if she'd been expecting him. "You're late," she said in perfect English. Her voice had a musical quality to it. Oliver blinked in surprise. "I'm right on schedule." "No," she smiled, standing up gracefully. "You were meant to find me 3 years ago, but circumstances kept getting in the way. I'm Eleanor, Princess of the Luminary people. And you, Oliver Matthews, are going to help me save the galaxy." Oliver's mind raced. The Luminary were legendary, an ancient species known for their advanced technology and telepathic abilities. Most humans thought they were just stories, and now one of them was saying she'd been waiting for him. "Look," he said, checking his wrist computer for guard positions, "I'm just here to get you out. The Resistance is paying me to." "The Resistance?" Eleanor laughed softly. "They work for me. We needed someone with your specific skills, someone who wouldn't be connected to any official groups. The Dominion has spies everywhere." A red light started flashing on Oliver's computer. "Guards coming. We need to move." Eleanor nodded and moved to the door. "Lead the way, but be careful of the patrol coming up from the lower level. They're not on your schedule." "How did you?" Oliver started to ask, then remembered the stories about luminary telepathy. "Never mind. This way." They moved quickly through the dark corridors. Eleanor's soft glow actually helped, providing just enough light to see by without being bright enough to attract attention. She moved silently, her prison clothes making no sound. "The Dominion captured me during peace talks," she explained as they walked. "They plan to use me to force my people to surrender. What they don't know is that I let them capture me." Oliver held up his hand, stopping her. A guard patrol passed by at the end of the corridor. Once they were gone, he whispered, "Why would you let yourself be captured?" "To steal their security codes," Eleanor said. "The Dominion's entire defense network runs through this facility. While they thought I was safely locked away, I was scanning the minds of every high-ranking officer who came to interrogate me." "That's actually brilliant," Oliver admitted. He led them to a service elevator that would take them back to the maintenance levels. "The Resistance needs these codes," Eleanor continued. "The Dominion is planning something terrible. They've built weapons that could destroy entire species. We have to stop them." The elevator doors opened. As they stepped inside, alarm sirens began to wail throughout the facility. "They've discovered I'm missing," Eleanor said calmly. "And no, the escape route you planned won't work now. But don't worry." She smiled at him, her silver eyes glowing brighter. I have a better idea. Tell me, Oliver, how do you feel about stealing a Dominion battlecruiser? Oliver stared at her. This job had just gone from dangerous to completely insane. But as he looked at the confident smile on Eleanor's glowing face, he realized he was probably going to say yes anyway. Some part of him had always wanted to steal a battlecruiser. This is the worst idea I've ever agreed to, Oliver muttered as he and Eleanor ran through the battlecruiser's corridors. Red emergency lights flashed all around them, and alarm sirens screamed through the ship's speakers. They had managed to reach the Dominion battlecruiser's landing bay, but things hadn't gone exactly as planned. Eleanor's telepathic abilities had helped them avoid most of the guards, but now the entire facility was on high alert. The bridge is 2 levels up, Eleanor said, her glowing skin providing enough light to see by. She looked tired. Using her telepathic powers was clearly taking a toll on her. There's a maintenance ladder ahead. Oliver checked his stolen security card. We have about 3 minutes before they lock down the whole ship. Are you sure you can fly this thing? Eleanor smiled weakly. I've pulled the knowledge from the captain's mind. I can fly it. They found the maintenance ladder and climbed quickly. Oliver went first, his stun pistol ready. At the top, he carefully opened the hatch and looked around. The corridor was empty. Clear, he whispered, helping Eleanor up. But I still think we should have stuck with my ship. Your ship is lovely, Eleanor said as they moved toward the bridge. But we need something bigger to get through the Crimson Nebula. The Dominion will expect us to avoid it because it's dangerous. That's exactly why we should go through it. They reached the bridge doors. 2 guards lay unconscious nearby, victims of Eleanor's mental abilities. Oliver quickly dragged them into a storage closet, while Eleanor worked on the door controls. The bridge was huge compared to Oliver's small smuggling ship. Screens covered the walls, showing space outside and the status of every part of the ship. Through the main window, they could see other Dominion ships starting to launch. They're scrambling fighters, Oliver said, checking the radar. We need to move fast. Eleanor sat in the captain's chair and placed her hands on the control panels. They lit up at her touch. The luminary helped design these ships, you know. The Dominion stole our technology, but they never fully understood it. The ship's engines roared to life. Oliver strapped himself into the weapons station, watching in amazement as Eleanor's fingers danced over the controls. The massive battlecruiser lifted smoothly off its landing pad. Multiple ships approaching, Oliver reported. They're ordering us to stand down. Hold on, Eleanor said. The ship shot forward, much faster than a vessel its size should be able to move. They burst out of the landing bay in a shower of sparks, the metal screaming around them. Laser fire started flashing past their windows. The Dominion ships were closing in from all sides. There, Eleanor pointed ahead. The Crimson Nebula filled half the view screen, a massive cloud of red gas and dust that played havoc with ship sensors. Plot us a course through the most dangerous part. Oliver's fingers flew over his console. Course plotted, but there's a lot of debris in there. One wrong move and we'll be torn apart. Trust me, Eleanor said. Her silver eyes were glowing brighter now. I can sense the safe paths. They plunged into the nebula. The red gas swirled around them, making it impossible to see more than a few hundred meters ahead. The ship's sensors went crazy, showing phantom objects everywhere. Behind them, most of the Dominion ships pulled back. Only 3 followed them in. They're still on our tail, Oliver said, but they're falling behind. Wait, something's wrong. Eleanor had slumped in her chair, her glow dimming. Too much, she whispered, using too much power to find the path. The ship shuddered as something hit them. Warning lights flashed across every console. Eleanor. Oliver jumped from his station and ran to her. Stay with me. I can't fly this thing alone. She opened her eyes slowly. You have to. I'll guide you, but I can't. Can't do it directly anymore. Listen to my voice. Trust your instincts. Oliver looked at the swirling red chaos ahead of them, then at the pursuing ships behind. He had never flown anything this big before, but he was still alive after years of smuggling because he knew how to trust his gut. He took the controls, feeling Eleanor's weak hand on his arm. "All right," he said. "Let's show the Dominion why they call me Ace." The battlecruiser dove deeper into the crimson storm, with danger ahead, enemies behind, and only instinct to guide them through. The stolen battlecruiser limped out of the Crimson Nebula. 12 hours later, all 3 pursuing Dominion ships had been lost in the storm, but their own ship was badly damaged. Warning lights flashed on almost every system. "We need somewhere to hide and make repairs," Oliver said, looking at Eleanor with concern. She was still pale, her natural glow much dimmer than before. "I know a place, but, well, the owner has a complicated relationship with battlecruisers showing up at her door." Eleanor managed a weak smile. "Haven Station. Yes, I can see it in your thoughts. Your friend Victoria runs it. You know, the whole mind-reading thing is going to take some getting used to," Oliver said, setting their course. "Vicky's good people. She helps smugglers and traders who need to stay off the Dominion's radar." The battlecruiser's engine sputtered as they approached Haven Station. The station was built from old cargo containers and ship parts, but Oliver knew it was stronger than it looked. Vicky had spent years turning it into a safe place for people running from the Dominion. "Haven Station. This is Oliver Matthews," he called over the radio, "requesting emergency docking. And Vicky, try not to shoot us. There's a good explanation for the battlecruiser." A familiar voice crackled back. "Ace, you never could do anything the simple way, could you? Dock at Bay 7, and you better have one hell of a story." They landed carefully, the huge ship barely fitting in the oversized cargo bay. As the doors closed behind them, Oliver helped Eleanor stand. She was getting stronger, but still needed support to walk. Victoria Vicky Wells was waiting for them at the airlock. She was a tall woman with graying red hair and an old laser rifle pointed at the door. When she saw Eleanor's glowing skin, her eyes went wide. "Inside, quickly," she said, lowering the rifle, "before anyone else sees you." They followed her through quiet corridors to her private office. The room was cluttered with old ship parts and star charts, but it felt safe. Vicky locked the door behind them. "A luminary," she said, staring at Eleanor. "I thought your people had all disappeared after the Dominion attacked your homeworld." "We went into hiding," Eleanor said, sitting down carefully. "But we never stopped fighting. The Dominion has been hunting us, trying to use our telepathic abilities for their weapons." Vicky's face hardened, like they did with Oliver's parents. Oliver's head snapped up. "What about my parents? They died in a trading accident when I was young." "No, Ace," Vicky said softly. "They were resistance fighters. Your mother worked with the Luminary, helping them hide from the Dominion. Your father ran supplies to resistance bases. The accident was a Dominion attack." Oliver fell into a chair, his mind spinning. Why didn't you tell me before?" "They made me promise to keep you safe," Vicky said. "The less you knew, the safer you were. But now," she looked at Eleanor, "now you're involved whether we like it or not." Eleanor reached out and touched Oliver's hand. Her fingers were warm, and he felt a gentle presence in his mind. Not reading his thoughts, just offering comfort. "The Dominion has been destroying families for decades," Eleanor said. "They find people with special abilities or knowledge, and either force them to help or eliminate them. They're building something terrible, a weapon that can destroy entire species that resist them. The Resistance has been fighting them," Vicky added. "But we're losing. We need help. We need—" "The Luminary," Oliver finished, understanding dawning in his eyes. "That's why you let yourself be captured. You weren't just stealing security codes. You were proving the Dominion could be beaten." Eleanor nodded. "Yes. But I found something else too, in the minds of the Dominion officers. Oliver, your parents weren't killed in that attack. They were captured. and they're still alive, being held in a secret Dominion research facility. Oliver stood up slowly, his hands clenched into fists. Everything he believed about his past had just changed. But one thing was clear: he wasn't just a smuggler running jobs for credits anymore. This was personal. "Tell me everything," he said. "And then we're going to make a plan. Because the Dominion just made their biggest mistake. They made this fight about family." Oliver was studying a star map in Vicky's office when the first alarm sounded. Red lights flashed through Haven Station as warning sirens filled the air. Multiple ships dropping out of light speed. Vicky's voice came over the station speakers. "Dominion signatures detected. This is not a drill." Eleanor burst into the office, her glow pulsing with urgency. "They found us. 3 warships and 6 fighter squadrons. They'll be in firing range in 10 minutes. Oliver ran to the window. He could see the Dominion ships approaching. Dark shapes against the stars, their weapons already powering up. Haven Station was tough, but it wasn't built to survive a direct attack from warships. "Vicky," he called over his communicator. "How many people are on the station?" 217, she replied. "Mostly traders, some families. We're starting evacuations, but we don't have enough ships for everyone." Oliver looked at the damaged battlecruiser they had stolen. It could hold plenty of people, but its engines were still badly hurt from the Nebula escape. It would be slow, an easy target. "Oliver," Eleanor said softly, "there's something else. I can sense a resistance fleet nearby. They're gathering for a major attack on a Dominion weapons facility. If the Dominion discovers them now..." He understood immediately. The Dominion ships weren't just here to capture them. They were searching the whole area. If they stayed too long, they might detect the resistance fleet. "How long until the resistance attack begins?" he asked. 6 hours, Eleanor answered. "But they need to know about these warships. If they don't change their approach vectors, they'll fly right into an ambush." Oliver's communicator crackled again. "Ace," Vicky said, "I've got your payment ready. The Scarborough is fueled up in Bay 12. You and the Princess can slip out while we keep their attention. You've done enough. More than we had any right to ask." Oliver looked at the credits waiting on his data pad. Enough money to buy a new ship, to live comfortably for years. All he had to do was run. It's what any smart smuggler would do. The station shook as the first warning shots from the Dominion ships hit its shields. "We can't hold them long," Vicky warned. "Whatever you're going to do it fast." Eleanor watched him quietly, her silver eyes glowing. She hadn't moved toward the escape route. She was waiting for his decision. Another explosion rocked the station. Through the window, Oliver saw escape pods launching, scattering in different directions, families running for safety, just like he had run years ago, when his parents... No, not this time. "Vicky," he said into his communicator, "get everyone you can onto the battlecruiser. We'll use it as a rescue ship." He turned to Eleanor. "Can you send a warning to the resistance fleet?" "Yes," she said, already closing her eyes to concentrate. "But it will take all my strength. I won't be able to help fly or fight." "You don't need to," Oliver said, checking his weapons. "I'll handle that part. Vicky, I need you to reach out to every smuggler and trader who owes us favors. Tell them to get here fast. We're going to need a defensive screen for the evacuation." "What's the plan?" Vicky asked. Oliver smiled grimly. "We're going to do what smugglers do best. Make a big distraction. The Dominion wants a fight. Let's give them one they won't forget." He ran toward the station's defense control room, Eleanor right behind him. Around them, people were rushing to their positions, preparing for battle. They weren't soldiers or warriors. They were traders, engineers, and everyday people who had found safety at Haven Station. But sometimes, Oliver knew, those were the most dangerous people of all, because they had something worth fighting for. The station rocked with another hit, but this time, Oliver didn't feel fear. For the first time in his life, he wasn't running away from the Dominion. He was running toward them. 2 months after the Battle of Haven Station, Oliver stood in a hidden underground room on the trading world of New Bristol. Maps and data screens covered the walls, showing smuggling routes and Dominion patrol patterns. Around the central table stood the unlikeliest group of resistance fighters ever assembled. "The Dominion's moving more ships to the outer sectors," he said, pointing to red dots on the largest map. "They're searching for something. Or someone." "They're looking for me," Eleanor said. She sat nearby, her glow now fully restored. "But they're also hunting for any sign of my people. The Luminary are gathering their forces." Commander James Blackwood, the Resistance's chief strategist, studied the map carefully. He was an older man with sharp eyes and gray hair, who had once been a Dominion fleet officer before switching sides. "Your smuggling contacts have been invaluable, Oliver," Blackwood said. "We've moved more supplies in the last 2 months than we did in the previous year." Oliver nodded. After the successful defense of Haven Station, where a makeshift fleet of smugglers and traders had helped evacuate everyone safely, word had spread through the underground. More people wanted to help fight the Dominion. "My people never forget those who helped them," Eleanor said, looking at Oliver with a warm smile. "Every smuggler who joins us is one more crack in the Dominion's control." A young woman rushed into the room, carrying a data pad. "Message from Vicky," she said, handing it to Oliver. "3 more station managers want to join the network. And she's found another family separated by the Dominion, kids looking for their parents." Oliver's jaw tightened. They had already helped reunite 5 families that the Dominion had torn apart, but they still hadn't found his own parents. Every new lead gave him hope, and every dead end hurt more than the last. Eleanor must have sensed his thoughts, because she touched his arm gently. "We'll find them," she whispered. "I promise." "Focus on the bigger picture," Blackwood said, though his voice was kind. "Every safe house we set up, every supply line we establish, it all helps us get closer to the prison facilities." Oliver turned back to the maps. Their network had grown quickly. Smugglers were perfect for resistance work. They already knew how to avoid Dominion patrols, had their own ships, and knew all the best hiding places. Plus, they were used to keeping secrets. "We need to expand here," he said, pointing to a cluster of mining colonies. "The Dominion's been pressing the miners harder lately. They'll be ready to help us." "It's dangerous," Blackwood warned. "The Dominion watches those colonies closely. That's why they won't expect us to try." Oliver replied with a grin. "Trust me, miners hate the Dominion even more than smugglers do." Eleanor stood up and walked to the map. "I can help. There are luminary hidden among the miners. I can reach out to them telepathically if we get close enough." Oliver looked at her with concern. "Are you sure? Using your powers that much?" "I'm stronger now," she said firmly. "And we need those colonies. The Dominion's new weapon." She shuddered. "The things I saw in their officers' minds. We have to stop them." Blackwood nodded slowly. "All right. But we do this carefully. Oliver, pick your best people for this one. We can't afford mistakes." As they planned the mission, Oliver watched Eleanor studying the maps. She had changed him in ways he never expected. Before meeting her, he had only cared about staying alive and making enough credits to keep flying. Now he was helping build something bigger than himself. A resistance officer brought in more reports. Dominion patrol schedules, supply ship movements, guard rotations at key facilities. Once, this kind of information would have only meant profit opportunities to Oliver. Now it meant hope. Hope for families torn apart, for worlds under Dominion control, and for a future where people could live free. "Ready?" Eleanor asked, catching him lost in thought. Oliver smiled. "Ready. Let's go make some more trouble for the Dominion." Oliver crouched in the shadows of Dominion Prison Complex Alpha, watching guard patrols through his night vision goggles. Behind him, 20 of his best smugglers waited silently. In the sky above, hidden by clouds, Eleanor and Commander Blackwood waited in the captured battlecruiser, ready to provide support. "Remember," Oliver whispered into his communicator, "we're not just hitting this prison. 5 other teams are attacking different facilities right now. Timing has to be perfect. This was their biggest operation yet. Months of planning, gathering intelligence, and building their network had led to this moment. They had discovered that the Dominion kept political prisoners in 6 main facilities. Tonight, they would free them all. Guard shift change in 30 seconds. Eleanor's voice came through his earpiece. Her telepathic abilities let her sense the movements of people inside the prison. Southgate will be clear for 2 minutes. Oliver gave the signal. His team moved forward silently, using the tricks that had kept them alive as smugglers. They reached the gate just as the guards disappeared around a corner. Vicky's codes better work, Oliver muttered, placing a small device on the gate's control panel. For a moment, nothing happened. Then green lights flashed, and the gate slid open. "We're in," he reported. "Eleanor, how many prisoners?" 312 in this facility, she replied. "Many are resistance fighters. Some are." She paused. "Oliver, I'm sensing something. There are Luminary here too." Oliver's heart beat faster. If there were Luminary prisoners, maybe his parents. No, he couldn't think about that now. He had a job to do. The team split into groups, each heading for different cell blocks. Oliver led his group toward the high-security section. They had to stun 2 guards along the way, hiding them in storage closets. "First cell's opening now," reported one of his smugglers through the communicator. Prisoners are confused but cooperating. Oliver reached the high-security doors. These needed special codes, codes Eleanor had pulled from the minds of Dominion officers. He entered them carefully, holding his breath. The doors opened. Inside, dozens of cells lined the walls. And in those cells, "Luminary," Oliver whispered. Their faces glowed faintly in the darkness, like Eleanor's did. They looked weak, but their silver eyes were alert. "We're with the resistance," he called out softly. "We're here to free you. Can you walk?" "Yes," one of them answered. "We've been conserving our strength. We knew you would come. The princess showed us in our dreams." As Oliver opened their cells, his communicator crackled. "Dominion ships approaching," Blackwood warned. "They must have detected something. 10 minutes until they're in range." "That's not enough time," Oliver said, helping a Luminary elder to his feet. "We've barely started the evacuation." "It's enough," Eleanor said firmly, "because we're not running." There was a new tone in her voice, one of command. "The Luminary prisoners, ask them if they're strong enough to fight." Oliver looked at the freed prisoners. Despite their time in cells, they stood straight and proud. The elder he had helped smiled, and suddenly his glow grew brighter. "We have been gathering our power," the elder said. "Waiting. Your princess was wise to plan for this moment." Above the prison, the clouds parted. The battlecruiser descended, its weapons ready. But it wasn't alone. Other ships appeared. Smugglers' vessels, traders, even some mining ships. The network Oliver had helped build was coming to their aid. "All teams," Oliver commanded, "get those prisoners out now. We're about to show the Dominion why you should never put a lot of angry telepaths in the same prison." The Luminary prisoners began to glow brighter, their power building. Through his mental link with Eleanor, Oliver felt their combined strength. The Dominion was about to learn a hard lesson. Sometimes the people they locked away were more dangerous free than they ever were in chains. The Dominion's main communications hub filled the view screen of Oliver's ship. It was a massive station, floating above a desert planet, surrounded by defense satellites and patrol ships. This was the heart of the Dominion's propaganda machine, the place where they controlled what information reached their conquered worlds. "All teams ready?" Oliver asked, looking around his ship's bridge. The Scarborough had been rebuilt and upgraded over the past months, turning it from a simple smuggling vessel into a proper resistance ship. "Ready," Eleanor replied from the weapons station. Her glow was bright and steady now, stronger than ever. Beside her sat 2 older people who shared Oliver's brown hair and determined expression, his parents, finally rescued from a secret research facility during the Great Prison Break. Communications network in place, Oliver's mother said, her fingers moving across her console. Years of being forced to work on Dominion computers had made her an expert at breaking their systems. Resistance fleet standing by, his father added. Smuggler squadrons in position. Mining ships ready with their cargo. Oliver took a deep breath. This was it. Their chance to show countless worlds the truth about the Dominion. Eleanor's telepathic network of luminary would help broadcast the message to every corner of Dominion space. Begin the attack, he ordered. The first wave launched. Dozens of small, fast ships that used to smuggle cargo, now carrying a different kind of contraband. Hope. The Dominion defenses came alive, filling space with laser fire. But the smuggler ships knew how to dodge, how to find the blind spots in sensor coverage. They'd been doing it for years. Mining ships now, Oliver commanded. The huge mining vessels opened their cargo bays, releasing clouds of mineral dust into space. The dust confused the Dominion's targeting systems, creating a screen for the resistance fighters to hide in. They're sending out fighters, Eleanor warned. 3 squadrons. No, 5. Let them come, Oliver said with a grin. Vicky, you're up. Hidden Haven station ships appeared from behind nearby asteroids, catching the Dominion fighters in a crossfire. Vicky's voice came over the radio, just like target practice. The battle raged around them. As Oliver piloted the Scarborough through the chaos, they had one job: get Eleanor and his mother close enough to the communications hub to break in. Ready with the codes? He asked. His mother nodded. The same codes they forced me to write. Seems fitting to use them now. They reached the hub's docking area under heavy fire. Eleanor's hands glowed as she used her powers to confuse the station's crew, making them see empty space where the ship actually was. We're docked, Oliver announced. Mom, do it. His mother's fingers flew across the keyboard, entering the back door she'd hidden in the Dominion systems years ago. Alarms blared throughout the station as its defenses shut down. Eleanor, now, Oliver called. Eleanor closed her silver eyes, connecting with the network of luminaries spread across Dominion space. As Oliver's mother uploaded the truth, proof of Dominion atrocities, records of families torn apart, evidence of their weapons of mass destruction. Eleanor and her people broadcast it directly into the minds of billions. No one could deny the truth when they saw it and felt it. It's working, his father reported, watching the communication feeds. Rebellions are breaking out on 12 worlds already. The Dominion fleet is in chaos. Ships are surrendering or changing sides. Oliver watched through the view screen as the mighty Dominion communications hub, symbol of their control and lies, went dark. Station by station, ship by ship, their power was crumbling. Eleanor opened her eyes and smiled at him. We did it, she said softly. The resistance won. No, Oliver replied, taking her hand. The people won. All of them. Humans, luminary, everyone the Dominion tried to control. They just needed to see the truth. As the Scarborough pulled away from the hub, Oliver looked at his recovered family, at Eleanor, at the free ships flying proudly through space. He wasn't just a smuggler anymore. He was something better, a symbol of hope, proof that anyone could stand up and fight for what was right. Where to now? His father asked. Oliver smiled. Everywhere. We have a lot of worlds to help rebuild. And this time, we're doing it together.